So my name is Rick Faye. I started MKG in 1982. We have been blessed enough to be associated with great martial artists from around the world throughout our history. The number one influence here is a man named Dan Inosanto. Dan Inosanto was Bruce Lee's business partner and training partner, but that's not his biggest set of accolades. He is one of the most well-educated, knowledgeable martial artists of our generation or many generations. I'm lucky enough to be a senior full instructor under him. I have been training with him for 40 some years and treasure every moment of that. So he's the biggest influence here at MKG. His influence really pointed us toward a number of other martial artists that we got involved in or involved with. People like the Sifu Larry Hartzell, people like Sifu Paul Vunak. There's been a number of other people in the JKD family or Bruce Lee's lineage family that have helped contribute everything from curriculum to just general understandings of how this art works. In the Kali area, Dan Inosanto is by far the expert in the field. He's the best there is and the most knowledgeable that there is in that, and has imparted a lot of that to us. So Kali is an absolutely endless art. It's fascinating, and that's a big part of our curriculum. Other people who've contributed to that are people like Leo Gahi, Bill McGrath. These people are also great Filipino martial artists, and we've taken information from them and put it in our curriculum. On the other side, we've got John Machado was one of the founders of our grappling program. Eric Paulson came out of here and has helped us with our grappling program. These are great names in the grappling world. But again, it sticks with our principle to go with the best in every section. The Wing Chun here now is guided by a man named Sifu Francis Fong, and he's an incredible martial artist and worldwide respected. So these are the type of people that we use to create our curriculum. So before I met Mr. Inosanto, I was involved in martial arts. We were doing Southern Praying Mantis, which is a system locally here. We happened to have the Grand Master here in Minneapolis, so that was good training. We did some Hapkido, a little bit of Judo, and we were doing other martial arts, Taekwondo, before we met Dan Inosanto. My training partner went out to the Aspen Academy and met Guru Dan and came back and said, "You have to check this guy out." So we went to the first weekend seminar in Chicago at the Degerberg Academy, and I was sold from day one. This was a completely other level of martial art understanding, and just as depth of a human being. So he talked all about the different reasons that you train martial art, why we train for love of ourselves, love of our family, love of our community. It's all about these different principles. And I just found him absolutely fascinating. Since then, he's been really probably the biggest influence outside of my parents in my life. And so I very much value Mr. Inosanto's input and what he's done for us. After that, like I said, he was kind enough and insightful enough to steer me to other instructors. So every one of these other instructors that we talk about here, we were suggested by Dan Inosanto to go see. That's how that happened. So he's been a huge influence on us. It's a long list, actually, if we start all the way back. So some of the early camps had multiple instructors, and they were golden opportunities to not only meet them, but train with them. The first camps, the Irvine camps, were 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and we had 5 weeks. We had 5 weeks to train. So it was a lot of time with people like Bill Wallace, William Chung, Leo Gahi, I think I already mentioned. There's a bunch of other people. Later it was Paul Vunak. There was a lot of people. Sifu Francis was there the second year. So there was a lot of people that we met. Pendekar Paul Dutoit was there for the CELAT and also at the Michigan camps. So we had a chance to train with these people, again, recommended by Mr. Inosanto, and they were golden. They were really, really beneficial. Some of those people I personally stayed with longer. So Master Chai would be an example. So when Guro Inosanto recommended us to do the Thai boxing with Master Chai, my training partner, Greg Nelson, was all on board with that right away. He jumped at it. And so I had to go. I was good with that. So we stayed with Master Chai, and to this day, we're very loyal to him. People like Paul Vunak came through, and we tried to follow what he was doing and really train with him. Larry Hartzell had a huge impact. Sifu Larry Hartzell was an original student of Bruce Lee, and Guru Dan said that I should look at what he does, and more than anything, pick up the mentality, the attitude, the awareness that he does. Well, I became his personal assistant, traveling assistant. And that was a big opportunity for me to go overseas, to go all over the U.S. and to see how the seminar was done, and to meet all the different people out there. So that was a golden opportunity. As we come into the jiu-jitsu era and the MMA era, we were introduced first to shoot wrestling. Shoot wrestling was really interesting because it comes along as a Japanese grappling art through Yuri Nakamura and Sayama. And then later, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comes along, and it makes a great complement for the shoot wrestling. Those two are now merged. They really, really have come together. And the Jiu-Jitsu people are working on things that we used to think of as shoot wrestling. The shoot wrestling people are working on things that we used to think of as Jiu-Jitsu. So those are really merged. There was another group of arts, the Silat arts. So Silat is a kind of generic term for the Southeast Asian, Indonesian, Malaysian martial arts. And it started with people like Eddie Joffrey, John Dito, but there was a bunch of other people that came along. Most significant for us were the Pendagar Paul de Trois. That was number one. He had the Bukti Nagara. And it was a stand-up system because he had injured his hip, so it was all stand-up. And very straight to the point, really precise leverage on the body. Just an excellent, like Guru Inosanto said, Kali has a lot of this, Rick, but he adjusted it 10% and it's better. So he made this art better. Then along comes a character called Paharman Sawanda. Paharman Sawanda put a whole new flavor on the Silat that is practiced now. And he was the real deal. He really, really could make this stuff work. And so his stuff was a lot of groundwork, a lot of low positions. Excuse me. But Pa Hermaswanda really affected how we treat and do Silat now. So going forward, we've had a number of other instructors come through, but again, all of them have been either recommended or at least endorsed by Guru Dan Inosanto. So the start of it is completely different from what we are now. I didn't really want students, and my first student was forced on me by Sifu Tim Tackett. And he said, you're going to teach this guy. So we had Bill, and I enjoyed that. And then we started to get more people. People started hearing about what we were doing. And it was really a training group back then. And that's why we chose the word Minnesota Kali Group. It was actually the Minnesota Kali John Fon Group. But the word group fit us better than an academy or a school or anything like that. Because we were just a training group. We were working out. And as we got more and more information, became more and more proficient with what we were doing, obviously people were attracted to it and started to come on board. We outgrew our old location, which was a rat hole. It looked like the old Rocky gym. It really did. It had a certain feel. I liked it, but it was awful. If you came into it, it was a ratty old place to work out. So we outgrew the Washington Avenue School and then moved into a place called the Ford Center, which was a very nice office type building. We had a lot more space. We had a lot of things, a lot more equipment could go up there. We had a matted area. We went from there on to the Hennepin Avenue School, which was actually an old bank building. And that was an interesting place because our weight room was in the old vault. So it had cement walls this thick. It was a very, very interesting place to train. And then we went from Hennepin Avenue to our current location at 46 and Chicago Avenue. And that happened in 99. We've been there ever since. It's been a wonderful, wonderful place. We're lucky enough to have a big school. So we have 3 big training floors. There's lots of space, lots of equipment, and everything is much better than it was back when we had, when we started, you couldn't buy a pair of focus mitts. It wasn't really common. You had to know somebody or be able to order them through one of the martial art magazines. So things have changed so much and for the better. We're much much, much, much better than we used to be. So the evolution of what we actually do is a pretty logical one, and we were just following what we thought we should do at the time. So we started with a group of dedicated martial artists, and the first group was very much contact oriented. So we had a lot of full contact sparring. Everything that we did was put in a contact context. And by today's standards, it was too hard. It was very hard on the body. We were injured quite a bit, and so it was a little bit too much, but we thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. We called it the era of functionalization, so there was some emphasis on getting into real world situations where you had to prove it. We didn't do as much of that as some other groups did, but I still think we probably did a little too much of it. And so I think we evolved out of that, and we became more of just a training school. And the training was hard. It was emphasized endurance, emphasized contact, not so much on the street contact side, but in the gym. And it got better and better and better. As we got better at it, we realized, and we were coached by Guro Inosanto to realize, that drilling is really the way to go. So we discovered that doing basic drills back and forth are good ways to install decent combat reactions. It's much less hard on the body, and it's a much more fun way to train. So as we come to today, we've taken almost all the contact out of our training unless you want it. This is due to some involvement with the NFL and some other things, and studying things like head concussions and that kind of thing. We try to keep our students as safe as possible here. So there's not a lot of head contact. There's not a lot of what people think of as the hard training. That's not here. You will get good endurance training. You'll hit the pads, you'll do all this stuff, and you're going to ingrain decent reactions through the way we feed the drills. But through this whole evolution, we've learned how to do this the right way now. Yes, so the international, the traveling seminar portion for me was introduced really by helping Dan Inosanto at a few seminars, being an assistant for Paul Vunak at a few seminars, and then Sifu Larry Hartzell was the first one to really take me on board and bring me overseas, all these other different places, introduce me to how this is done. I had been going to seminars all along, but being a student at them is quite a different experience than being part of the presentation, being part of, connecting with the host, all the traveling, all of that stuff is a whole nother dimension to martial art that Mr. Hartzell really introduced me to. So we would go around and meet different people. You asked about the first branch school. I believe our first branch school is actually in Bournemouth, England, because I think Brendan Westwood was the first one to catch on to this fact that we could transport this. This doesn't have to be just in Minneapolis. And to be honest, I didn't see it. I didn't have his vision at that time. He was very, very smart about getting this thing going. He coined the term MKG. I had always gone with Kali Group or Minnesota Kali Group, and he said, it's too long. He said, Sifu, can we just go MKG? And I said, okay, it's cute. Let's try it. I didn't think it would be as big as it is now. Fast forward to today, again, we've got branches all over the world. It's growing, especially in the UK. The branch numbers are really going up. So we've got them all over the US, Seattle, Detroit, Chicago, Madison. They're all over the place. And I think it's wonderful that people have latched onto this method of, creating good drills, staying true to decent combat martial art, but taking out the harmful effects of that training. And we create a family atmosphere so that it's very friendly. It's not formal. It's again, very, very easy for a beginner to come into this environment and feel at home. Everybody's welcoming. We make the drills understandable for you right from the very beginning. And it's exciting to see what's happening. I hope that it keeps growing, and I hope we keep opening new branches all around the world, because I love traveling to see these places. As this has grown and as we've opened branches different places, we've always had instructor conferences for the longest time, they were here in Minneapolis. That was the deal, is we would have people come in, especially when we started writing the manuals, so that we would have our curriculum written out in outline form. We'd hand out a manual, we'd go through it for people so that everybody kind of knew what we did and how we did it. Then at some point, well, not at some point, Brendan Westwood was the first one to host an overseas conference. So we all went to Bournemouth, England, and I personally was shocked at how many of the instructors followed me over to Bournemouth, England. And that was the start of something there. We had a great time. It was very well received. Everybody talked about it. So from that, we had the little seed of, here's an idea. So we went on from there to have instructor conferences in all sorts of different places. We've had them here domestically in Seattle, in Duluth, places like that. Overseas, I think our next one was Germany, I want to say, after that. And that was in Hanover. That was fantastic. Then we went to Spain, Madrid. I might have those two backwards. But and that was wonderful. Lots of people followed us to Spain. And these started to grow to the point where now we've done instructor conferences in Japan. We've done instructor conferences in Hawaii and a conference in Italy. And it's amazing how many of our instructors have gotten used to international travel, which is great, and how many of them will follow us to all these places. It's because of the family feeling. They feel a part of this bigger MKG family. And you've got people, like you said, you've got people from Canada calling people in England saying, hey, I'll meet you at the conference in Italy. It's fantastic. It's really, everybody's gotten to know some of the people's kids. We get to know the families, and it's become a great travel destination. So I'm looking forward to the future. We're going to have a hard time beating the last three conferences, because to beat a conference in Japan, to beat a conference in Hawaii, and to beat the conference, the last one in Italy, we're going to keep trying. So I'm sure we'll find new places.